Well, hello everyone, and welcome once again to THRIVEcast. I am your host, DJ Eshelman, and joining me as always is Jeff Pitch. Welcome,
hello.
Jeff.
Hello, hello.
Go ahead and let us know you're here.
Hump Day.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun today. We're going to have a lot of fun with this, actually. Let us know you're here in the comments. We will put your comments up on the screen. Actually, today is going to be a very special day because we're going to be reminiscing about times past when we could actually be there in person. And who knows, maybe someday we'll have a conference that we'll do again, and we'll be able to do these things live on premise. I said on premise. That was funny. Somebody's gonna catch that at some point. If not, then whatever.
But you got it right, on premise. Because a premise
on premises is what I was. Yeah, literally on premises. Premise is a thought. Premises is a place. Let's not get crazy here. So yeah, hey. Today we are talking EUC conferences and reminiscing. There is a event going on this weekend so basically this is usually a in-person event that is kind of one of those guerrilla conference events that we're going to talk about today. But we also wanted to share some memories of conferences past and have some fun with it and have you share your memories too. So you can just put your comments there in the chat and we should see it. If not, then we'll just kind of panic and pretend it never happened or whatever. I don't know.
Do we want to tell them what we're talking about? The conference?
Yeah.
So for those that know, have heard of E2EVC, still very commonly known as Pub Forum, because that's really the way it started. Was the name was Pub Forum, and I really wish Alex could have been here for this. We did invite him, but it was sort of last minute, and he wasn't able to make it. So I'm going to give you my side of the story, and I think it's pretty accurate with everything. So Pub Forum originally started out not as a conference. It was basically a few of the guys that were on the Citrix forums answering questions. So they had a list of names on the right-hand side of the forum page. You'd get points for answering questions. People would say, yup, that's a good answer. You get points, those types of things. And the thing you have to remember is that Citrix is and still was very forefront, very popular in Europe. The Dutch are second to none when adopting these types of technologies. They, for whatever reason, tend to be well ahead of the game. But, a few of them got together. I believe the first true pub forum was in London, if I remember correctly. Because you had Stuart Suter, Chris Marks, and a few others that were based in London. So there was a few of them that got in there. But so there were 3 or 4 before Paris, where they had one in Paris. And Alex and the others, Stefan Vermeulen, Thomas Kutzing, Alex obviously, pushed because I was into the forums at that time when that was rolling around. You got to come out. We're going to Paris. We're going to meet up, just chat and have beers, that type of thing. And on a whim, I decided to fly out to Paris for the weekend. And I was saying that I flew to Paris for the weekend, man. Ain't no big thing. But that's kind of where a lot of community really started happening. because it wasn't just me as the first American. Brian Madden showed up there. We had, and I'm going to say the name wrong, but it's the best I can say. We had, and I can't remember the last name right now off the top of my head, but your own and a lot of the login consultant guys that were there. It became bigger than what it had been. I mean, we're talking 15, 20 people. But it was a lot of talking, a lot of beer drinking, a lot of really fun, good times. Not soon after that, Alex starts putting together Pub Forum as an official conference. The big thing is you get free beer, as a speaker, as an attendee. And it started off as the, no marketing BS, all technical conference.
Right.
And Alex has taken it farther than I ever would have thought he could. It's become it has, like I said in my tweet, it is the go-to conference for EUC.
We should back up a second, because I don't think we've really explained like E2 EVC at all. Really, I think we've started talking history. We haven't really talked like what it actually is.
Why would we want to do that? Some context? No.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you're gonna say, go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, as we've grown as an EUC community, as an end user computing community, the need has been pretty clear that we have experts, quote unquote, that have emerged or whatever, that have been a part of our community. Well, the idea with E2E is experts to experts, which is kind of the modern name. Apparently Pub Forum wasn't popular enough in circles where you could be sent to it.
It's hard to justify going somewhere called Pub Forum.
Yeah, so Alex's concept with this is that everybody's treated as an expert. So anybody can be presenter. Obviously, you can't just show up and just start presenting. I mean, that might not work so well. But arranging in advance to be.
With the way Alex runs it, I bet you could.
There's been a little bit of that. There has been a little bit, but it's not your typical vendor organized conference with like high organization, that sort of thing. It is much more
fluid.
Well, yeah, show up to be heckled is the way I would describe it from the two I've been to.
But let's be clear. It's all in good fun.
Yes.
And there is a lot of good information passed along from various vendors. And I mean, vendors sponsor this thing, and they don't really get speaking slots.
Right.
They can present on true technical portions if they want,
right?
But there's no marketing speak.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Yeah, so a lot of conferences, I know people get frustrated at conferences that are just marketing based, and this is something I actually wanted to talk about today. Is that in our virtual world, and I'm dealing with this. Actually, I've got a CUGC for Cincinnati that I'm presenting at today, and there's been a talk about this. Is like, okay, if we've gone all virtual, especially, how much how do you differentiate a webinar, like a vendor webinar where they're essentially marketing or telling you about new things? That's what marketing is, from a event like this. I think one of the big things that people miss is that there's opportunities within it's like in the margins. And so there's been E2 EVCs that have been done alongside other conferences, which is another interesting guerrilla tactic here. But the idea here is that, yeah, it's not a marketing conference. This is a knowledge conference and a networking conference. That's sort of really a network. Actually, I would almost say networking is like the first part of it. Like
networking is huge.
Yeah, the sharing knowledge is a part of it, but man, there's just nothing like, having memories of being utterly and completely exhausted and just sitting up on a, overlooking a pool or something like that, and just, having drinks and
yeah. Yep. And you know, it's kind of crazy, kind of not. He has tried it in the US. I believe there was even one that was, I want to say, in Japan somewhere at one point, or
Hmm.
maybe that Claudio, you could maybe that was you, Claudio. I'm thinking of, and I think they tried to get one going in South Africa or something like that. But it's mainly, it really is Europe. And he bounces around different countries, different cities. He's tried it in the US. And
Yeah,
you talk about the guerrilla tactic, tried doing it around
synergy.
Synergy, almost called it I-Forum, um, based around Synergy, and it didn't work. And with the landmass that is America, it's very difficult. I mean, even, you know, the Masters Retreat, you know, it's hard, you know, for people from one coast to go to the other coast, and even for a weekend, it's you know, so it's difficult to do something like this in the US, and Lord knows he's tried, um, but it's difficult.
Yeah.
In Europe, it works extraordinarily well. I think he has like 200, at least 200 attendees every time. Well, in this weekend was supposed to be in Madrid, which I was looking forward to. I've never been to Madrid. I
Right.
was going to make it back this year, but you know, it's been all over. I mean, just all over Europe, and it's always a great time, like you said, from a networking perspective, from a technical presentation perspective,
Mhm.
from a just having a hell of a lot of fun
Yeah.
perspective.
I think that's well, not to be overly obvious, but a chance to let your hair down a little bit
Yep.
among your peers is something that I don't know, especially the one that was in Orlando during Synergy.
Mhm.
At that time, I was in a bit of a different spot because I was actually working with a partner at that point, and so there's this just crazy, uh, yeah, just expectation of that. You're just on all the time, and so it's kind of crazy to have those expectations of you, of that sort of thing. And for me, my first E2 UVC was right there in Orlando, and it was just this crazy, like, okay, I'm exhausted from Synergy and being on all the time, and I just came to just hang out with folks where I didn't have any expectations on me whatsoever, and it was just fantastic. So
Yeah.
actually, Claudio has some. So the next one's in Athens, and yes, that was
Tokyo. That's what I was. Yeah.
formally announced on Friday, but November is when we're looking for that. And then back in October was the Tokyo one, and I was really, really sad I didn't get to go to that. I've been, I was, yeah, things happen, life happens, and sometimes you don't get to really participate like you really want to. So yeah, it's like, but it's important though. I think this was kind of a key for me. Of that was the first time that I really felt like I was actually part of the community. It was really odd. It was a time frame where I can't remember if I had actually applied to be a CTA at that point, or a CTP. I can't remember where I was in that thought process, but just being there in that room with folks. Actually, you know what? I am gonna say, yeah. So let's time for a personal memory here. So I was at E2 EVC in Orlando, and okay, mm, I don't know if I'm gonna get through this. Uh, yeah, I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to compose myself and come back to this. I had a rough night, and I'm going to talk about this later. So I'm going to come back to that memory just because it's gonna overwhelm me. But yeah, it's been great to connect to folks, and just have a different side of things. But that was really where I found my confidence as a a person in this community, and that I didn't have to be well known to be like a expert kind of a thing. If
Yeah,
that
and
makes
that's
sense.
the great thing, is that you don't have to be a part of the community. to be a presenter, to be anything. You can be an attendee. You can speak at these things. You know, there's a lot of the best information comes from those that are doing these things day in and day out. There is no criteria that you have to be this person, this name recognition to be part of this. No, it's nothing like that. It's for everybody. If you do any work in EUC at all, you got to go. You got to try to get out there. Now, I know it's hard for us in the US to be flying off to Europe twice a year, but you know, if you get a shot, if you get a chance, take it and go do it. Spend a few extra days in whatever city that it's in, and you know, make it a trip with your spouse and stuff.
Yeah. So Claudio says spill the beans. So
that sounds like Claudio.
Yeah. So all right. So the memory, and I think I'm ready now. Now I'm trying to remember what year this was. I want to say it was 2017 or 2018.
Something like that. Yeah, it was a few years ago, but not too long ago.
But yeah, so that was at EUC, and I remember sitting in the back, and there was a bunch of like the CTPs were up in the front and sharing a bunch of stuff, and I remember thinking to myself that this was just kind of well, to be blunt, I remember there were questions about technical things, and I'm like, well, I know that, and I know that, and I know that, and I know that. Wait, how is this, you know, feasible that I know all this stuff and can advocate for this kind of stuff? And it was Stephanie Roper that was there, and she was sitting next to me, and damn it.
Oh, Stephanie, yes. Wonderful lady.
She's the one that convinced me to apply and be a part of this community. And it was actually at EUC. I'm gonna have to turn this over to you because I don't know if I can take this. But
that's all right, man. That's all right.
But
all right,
Stephanie, we lost her. And it's a big loss, and I don't know why that just now hit me again, but that was Stephanie was really important to myself and a lot of us because she was the one that encouraged us. But she showed up, she was there, and then she was encouraging and very, very much like, hey, it wasn't like, oh, you should join. It was like, no, you should be part of this. You should be in this community. And that really was what unlocked me doing all this kind of stuff we're doing right now. So okay. Yeah, this is free therapy. This really kind of is. This is
why we've started this type of thing, you know.
Exactly.
This is okay. So, but yeah, you know, it's, I don't know, how many times can we say it's a great event? If you get a chance to go. The EUC Masters Retreat is Steve's E2EVC, basically. Same principles, same everything, with a bit of an American twist. So that's really not why Alex doesn't bring it back over, but he's got enough on his plate trying to do 2 a year, much less doing 3 a year and whatnot. So
and the cost is you know, a factor too. And
honestly, he does. I mean, Citrix sponsors it. Mm-hmm. You know, things like that, and they're not, you know, small named sponsors. I believe even VMware is in there. I might
this year. Control Up, VMware, AWS, iGel, Citrix, Parallels. I mean, they're all sponsoring this year virtually.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not like this is some podunk little place that a bunch of people get together to drink beer. Maybe. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but he does have a cooler full of beer for everybody to take at any time they want. So, but no, it is great. And if you've ever met Alex, God save your soul. The dude. He is I'm sorry, Alex. I'm going to say this, but he is a different kind of dude.
Really? Yeah, true. I mean,
I
it's a
think
force of
he
nature.
worked for the KGB at one point or something. Damn Russians. No, he is a great
There,
guy.
right?
He's very unique.
True that. I mean, he's yeah. I don't even know how to describe what's going on with that as far as he goes. He's there's something in his head that just wants people to be part of something, and he just puts all this energy into it, and it's really appreciated. And honestly, yeah, well, we can shift a little bit. And speaking of other conferences, you brought up Masters Retreat, which I'm really sad that we didn't get to do that this year. We tried and tried, but yeah. So we are working on a virtual way to do that. We're going to kind of hopefully merge some efforts. There's a yeah. So anyway, we'll get to that in a second. But the concept with Masters Retreat very similar in that it is a unconference. In other words, there's not a real strong agenda. There might be a schedule, but we're scheduling time purposefully to just let the topics form themselves, which is dangerous and unique, and I love it. Because anything can happen. You never know who's gonna show up and want to present something, and it's like, okay, well, put your idea up on the wall, and we'll vote on it and see who likes it, that sort of thing. And it's a great approach, and we're trying to figure out a way to do this virtually, which is interesting because Jeff and I, when we first started talking a couple months ago, we started talking about having a virtual summit that's based on a topic that came out of Masters Retreat last year, which is that people are not developing their careers very well. And that was actually another pivot point for me when I realized that, gosh, there's all these people that are out there in the EUC space that are basically just drifting and hoping something finds them.
Yeah. And really and to tie that back just a little bit more into the Masters Retreat, this isn't even our original idea, in that it didn't come from us.
Right.
It was actually Breen Crampton put this on a schedule. Like, we were building schedules interactively during the Masters Retreat, and a large number of the people came to that, and she facilitated it. But it
branding,
was
like personal branding.
Get a chance to be in that, and I regret that. But
yeah,
talking with others and with her, it was a great session that lasted far longer than anyone expected it. So
yeah, actually, that's a great point. So that session was something that I had voted for, but also I had submitted a topic. So what ended up happening is Dane and I ended up talking about tuning a virtual environment. A great topic, and something where for some reason whatever. But I remember thinking, it's like, oh, do we have to do this at the same time? Because I really want to do that. I just wanted to make it where we're all in that session. We were just all talking about that, but we broke out just because that was on the schedule. And we have to realize that that's something that not everybody comes to these things wanting to talk about their life or whatever. They come expecting to talk about technology. But having the freedom to do that is something unique. And well, okay, there's a lot of conferences out there. I mean, we've talked about Citrix Synergy. We can talk about Nutanix is next. iGel now has a Disrupt, that sort of thing. Of course, there's VMworld. But what I think is unique about, what's frustrating actually about those is, one, you only really get technical content that is typically
Curated.
anyway properly marketed. That it's through a filter.
Yeah.
I was really happy to be able to present something completely not about technology from a technical stance at Agile Disrupt this year, because it actually reminded me of the same kind of things that I would do for ETUVC or something like that, where we're talking about, okay, well, yeah, we have all this technical knowledge. What else can we talk about that's relevant? And talking about our development as people in IT, you're not going to get that at VMworld. You're not going to get that at Synergy so much,
Yeah, and to go a little bit on my soapbox, I think a lot of these programs started out with the best of intentions, but in the end, they are marketing. And I think that is a real shame, because a lot of people get it in their heads. I want to be a CTP, a V expert, so I can't say anything truly bad, or that might send the wrong message. I can't point out that this is a huge problem. Things like, and I think there's a lot of that where people tailor their messaging to be in compliance. Whether it's a company came down and said you can't say these things. Typically, it's just I don't feel like I should, because I want to be in this program, and I don't want to be kicked out for whatever reason. And I think that's a real shame, because even during the meetings that I have been able to be part of with these various communities, it's even during those private meetings, they're not like they used to be. Feedback, real feedback for the betterment of the products, not filtered so that somebody likes you type of thing. So, yeah, exactly, Claudio. And it's hard because it comes across, even as, if you're a big member of the community and people listen to you, I don't know. It's hard because you want that sponsorship or whatever, but if you're not giving the whole truth and only the good side of things, and people start discovering that what you gave them was the rosy picture, I mean, it hurts everybody.
Yeah. So, I mean, and what Claudia's talking about is that many of these programs are explicitly asking you not to talk about certain topics in public and, curbing your personal freedom. But I think this is kind of the key here. So, at worst, dictating an agenda that is to be sold to customers. And what I think, Claudio, to that point, that's actually really important, because what is happening is they're asking people that are not in a position to sell to customers to basically sell to customers, which is not bad in and of itself. And this might be good disclaimer time that the opinions expressed during this show do not necessarily reflect those of any vendor, partner, or company, just of ourselves. But at the same time, gosh, the whole point of conferences and Synergy and things like that, and VMworld to a degree, and all these other places, is to connect with people and share ideas, and that's kind of what it was. And so it has been really kind of, from a perspective of someone who has tried for years, it's been really kind of well, hey, you know what? We'll just let Claudio say it here. It's like he's left. Reason why he left all the programs, he got tired of lying to the community at the end of it, And I think there's a point there that it goes against what the community is, like he's saying, and that I think that it's important for us to have. It's not just freedom of expression, but when you get in that filtered viewpoint, that there's only like one way to do things and things like that. First of all, that's not healthy as a society. We know this. I mean, we're dealing with that, right? But at the same time, it starts this whole territorialism, and it politicizes the tech world, and it actually does piss me off a little bit that we can get so like, oh, VMware is the only way to go, or oh, Citrix is the only way to go, or Frame is or,
Well,
what I'm saying?
and that's and you're right. I mean, I've seen articles about technology, and I think I mentioned this on Twitter one time. That I know extraordinarily well. And if you had read this blog, you would have thought the functionality of the product in the cloud was beyond reproach. It was beautiful, awesome, great. And it's not. It wasn't at the time. I'm not even sure that it still is. But I read this and it was like, this is obviously either a play for Citrix, or I shouldn't have even said that, the company, but also, I mean, you can tell it was like, I'm going to use these words, but it was butt kissing to the nth degree. And I didn't say anything about it. Never brought it up, never contradicted. I just, it was frustrating to see that type of thing. And now I am not saying that you go out and trash products, because I don't believe that either. But I do think it is a part of, I think it's the responsibility of people that if you know of an issue or know of a problem that needs to be pointed out, that it should be able to be freely talked about and information disseminated.
I think so. Corey raises an interesting question here. Is like, do you know of any larger leaks of NDA that have caused damage in the end, or can you say that a mention of an NDA is more hype generator led by marketing?
It's both. And I'm not talking about NDA information, right? I'm not talking about the typical NDA information is these are features and products we have coming. This is what we're going to be introducing. Please don't tell anyone. I'm talking about true issues with current product, basically, right? Or past product, whatever the case may be. I'm not talking about violating NDAs. I'm talking about just being able to freely say, this product is great, but it does have some issues over here.
Yeah. And I actually do want to address this a little bit too, especially in terms of like conferences like E2 EVC, for example, where people push the boundaries of that. They want the inside information. They'll push like a CTP for inside track and get them to say something they shouldn't, sort of thing. Mostly because it's fun. But also, I think the thing that I'll say about this is that sometimes an NDA is just as much a test of your character to see if you can be trusted with bigger things as they are a smaller thing. And so there are a lot of those that are put out there. It is somewhat hype, but at the same time, it has some value. And there's been a few incidents lately that the need for NDA was extremely important. There were some security things that came up recently. There were some things with even down to like the product names and things like that. There was a big discussion going on that having that discussion outside of that control would have actually been damaging to the brand. And so there are times where yes, an NDA actually does protect the brand itself and protect your brand. And that's the thing that's really important to think about here, is that sometimes you need to protect your reputation as much as anything. So that's in the end, that's really what we have. And so a lot of times these conferences that are a little bit outside of the typical NDA, it's really important to keep that in mind. But when it's something that's out there and it's something that's actually accessible and people can see it, the ability to actually point out flaws, like you're saying, Jeff, is actually really important. And yeah, so this is kind of a fun line to draw. Is the Claudio says the problem is pointing out flaws in a product or weakness is seen as trashing by many vendors, and I will agree with that because I've had that experience myself of having been hand slapped pretty hard for pointing out things that we all knew and all talk about, but that does happen.
And the thing is, especially nowadays, and this can go into politics, it goes into anything, right? In that, don't deny. Say, admit it, whatever, the issue might be. I mean, if it's already public or people know about it, it just hasn't been widely spread, don't deny or try to put a gag on the order or anything like that. If you just come out and say, yes, we have this problem, we're working on a fix or whatever the case may be, now you're ahead of it, and people will look on that favorably. When people start down this path of hiding information, it makes it worse in the end. And I think the most recent big example is Citrix and the way they handled their big security leak, infiltration, whatever that was. The hackers got into their system, may or may not have stolen code and names and stuff like that. It's, they kind of hit it in a support article. And they didn't let partners know. They didn't let customers know. I'm not even sure they let CTPs, CTAs know. They just kind of put it out there. Boop, dangle it, go, boop. Hopefully nobody sees it, I guess. I don't know. I can't say that for sure. But to me, the right thing would have been, because it affected NetScaler and its core functionalities in getting
one. Okay. Sorry.
What's that?
You're talking about that one. I thought you were talking about a different one. Sorry.
No, well, I mean, but that's one, but there's also the break-in. But this might have come out of the break-in, who knows? But yeah, sorry, I did confuse the two there. That's my fault. But the whole NetScaler thing, sorry. Because it suddenly clicked in my head what I was actually referring to. But yeah, it's okay to have issues. Everyone has issues. There is no such thing as perfect software or hardware. It's designed and created by human beings who are inherently flawed.
Yeah.
It is true that when you fix a bug in a product, you introduce more bugs.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. You can't have software this intricate created by so many people that isn't inherently flawed. And I think we forget that a lot of times. Sorry, that's my soapbox, part of it.
Yeah. So, but I mean, a lot of times too, in talking about conferences, this is where the other element of conferences, and we have to recognize this is where people go to get information. It is a media event as much as a event for anything else. And now I will say that there's a few conferences, and I'm not going to name names here. I'm not going to go there, but there are some that in the past had very well separated the purpose of various conferences, ones that were more towards sales and marketing, and ones that were more towards hardcore tech. Let's get people together and have a good time together. There's also risks outside of the company when it comes to things like that. And honestly, if you're out there and you want to share a memory of a conference, now is definitely a great time to do that. But I remember a certain industry event in a certain Sin City where literally someone died. That's crazy. Like, they got so drunk they died. That sort of thing. so there's an element too of we want people to have a good time, but if you have if it's a company event, yeah, gosh, they're riding a hard line right there. It's a risk.
Well, I think we also need to draw a line between, you're right. There were some good company, and they're still around. It's not like they've gone away, but they have combined tech and sales and media, which is a shame because I think it does take away. But on the same token, if a vendor like VMware, like Citrix, like Microsoft is doing one of these big events, they have every right to filter the information that is presented. I can't disagree with that. It's their event. They're trying to put the best foot forward. I totally get that, and I do agree with it. It may not be what I want them to do, but I'm not going to sit here and say that it's a crappy way to go. I mean, that's what these events are for, like you said. So that's okay. But putting a gag on these things publicly, just in the everyday course of life, that's a different thing, in my opinion. This is just being upfront and honest about whether it's a bug, whether it's a glitch, whatever you want to call it, some sort of issue. I don't think those are the things that need to be hidden away. One, because I think in the end, people get companies, and the companies that are running the products and the companies that are making the products can run into a lot more issues, legally and otherwise. Hey, you knew this thing existed, but you didn't tell us, or you put the gag on people that do know that they couldn't talk about it.
And a lot of times, I mean, just like Claudio saying here, it's like sometimes there are personalities involved, and I've encountered that too. That there are certain folks out there that really do get so caught up in controlling the narrative that they forget that they're at an event to have a good time. They're at an event to serve their customers by introducing them to other customers.
Mm-hmm.
That's really important. Actually, to that end, honestly, I think some of my favorite memories are actually, so a couple of years ago, Citrix introduced a lunch table tech chats kind of a thing, and where you could just, initially it was just kind of like this, guided by employees kind of thing. And then they invited some of the CTAs to start leading those discussions. And honestly, there was some really great stuff that came out of that. It was really great to connect with people, see what their challenges were, and help them out and give them perspectives. And that was actually very valuable to me. But the
you talking about the Geek Speaks one?
No, I'm actually talking about that you would come and actually grab a box lunch, because conference lunch is awful. And you get your lunch and you sit down and you just choose a topic. You just see the topics up above, and you just choose a topic you want to sit down and talk about, and you just sit down. Now, the thing about that is, and we were pretty careful about this, but at the same time, I remember telling them the first time I did it, and reminding them on the second, and I think the third as well, like, I will do this, but I will not shill. I will not blow smoke. This is going to be, if I'm excited about a topic and want to bring up a solution for people, I will absolutely do that. But if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. And I'm not going to just force the matter and that sort of thing. And you know what? They were okay with that. And we got really good feedback for that, of being just sitting down with people and being honest. But I think that's in the conference itself. Last year, and I just realized that I never made this video public, and I need to, is that the strength of a lot of these conferences, and I saw this at Synergy the last 2 years in a row, and at Agile Disrupt here in Nashville a while ago. The strength of these is not the technical content. it's not even the product content. In fact, talking about iGel, gosh, they really didn't talk about iGel very much at Disrupt at all. In fact, I don't remember more than one presentation about their product. It was kind of, I was impressed. I was like, wow, I honestly didn't expect that. I honestly expected just to be, pounded over the head with a bunch of stuff, but it wasn't that at all. It was just like, if I think the attitude was, hey, if you want to talk about the technology, we're here. We got a bunch of us here. We can talk about it, but let's talk about other things as well, and then have these discussions. But some of the just hanging out and being friends of with each other and that sort of thing is is just missing sometimes. And I think that has been emerging more and more. I have to I pull up a conversation, like a Twitter conversation or something like that with Christian Riley at one point. That, gosh, there was I think it was after a keynote. Why am I blanking on the guy's name? I read his book and all that kind of stuff. It was just really touching, like really inspiring, like genuinely inspiring. And having conversations with people outside of technology about that. And there's this moment where you're like, well, yeah, okay, we're people, And I think it was really these conferences that unlocked that. And it's a shame that we're kind of being forced into a virtual space. But at the same time, gosh, take advantage of the opportunity. Take advantage of the opportunity to at least be around virtually, so you can practice being around in person. It's really important to do that. Here, I'm going to put another on the screen.
Well, and I think, and I can truthfully say that many of my friends today are community members that I've known. Some of these people, like I said, since mid 90s or something.
Sure.
I mean, it's my greatest opportunity to date came from Ron Oglesby, who I met through Brian, who I met in Paris, and I've known him for 20 years now or something, 20 plus years. And so, it's those types of things that you don't really think about at the time necessarily.
Sure.
But having those connections, those relationships are the number one best thing about any community. But especially, I think, in ours. I think the EUC community, I've said it before and I'll keep saying it, is second to none when it comes to not just the tech, but being people, being real people.
Yeah. And I like what Corey says here. He says you have to keep it real, especially to customers. I don't want to wait until we're sitting around the bar having a few drinks. Well, again, I'm not going to call anybody out because this represents like easily half the people I've ever been to these conferences with. But a lot of them will just attend the keynote virtually at the conference, or what happened the last Synergy, where a lot of us were, recovering in our hotel rooms and just not wanting to make the very long trek because Atlanta was not ideal for that.
At least not the conference center.
yeah, it was kind of a slog, and it was a lot. But other people were just at the bar, watching the keynote from the bar. And it's kind of funny that how that kind of ends up, but that's that element of connection. I've had much better conversations at the bar, even about technology, but I've had much better conversations about that than I have in a lot of the breakout sessions and things like that. But what I'll say, Corey, is that there have been incidents and of a couple conferences that I can think of. The last Next that I went to, the Synergy 2 years ago, things like that, where we did have kind of sponsored bar conversations that were breakouts during the regular times, but they just happened to serve drinks. But it was great to have some roundtable discussions and things like that. There was some back when Citrix Insiders was still a thing. It was a effort to reach out and have conversations with people, and so they had like people strategically placed to just talk about things, and you could just kind of like the lunch table tech chats, only with beer. You know,
Mhm.
that's not a bad thing, but Corey says he hasn't walked more in his life than in Atlanta.
It felt
Yeah,
longer than walking from a hotel in Vegas to the conference center. It really did. It
yeah.
felt longer.
I'm sorry, Citrix, but that was awful, and I'm not going to hold back from that. The funny thing about that, let's share another memory of Citrix Synergy last year. So my hotel was way far away, and I was so excited because Marriott upgraded me to a suite that I wonder if I could pull up pictures or video of this. I probably can, and show this room. It was just amazing, like one of those suites where there's like multiple couches and a whole dining area and all that kind of stuff, like conference room kind of stuff. So I got upgraded to this room, and I was like thrilled about it. And I was trying to invite people to come hang out and chat and things like that. I had people from my community that were there and all like that. And the problem wasn't the time. The problem was the distance. It was so far away. And this was one of the conference hotels. This was like the Marriott. The Yeah, it was Marriott. But it was so far away from everybody that it just never panned out. I think I had like one or two people take me up on it and drop by and chat, but it was awful to have to do that distance. But I may or may not have crashed a bird scooter into a fence on my way to a morning session. All right, I've started the memory train. So who's next?
I tried walking from the hotel I was at over there, went through Olympic Park or whatever that was.
Sure.
It was a nice walk, but but that was in the morning. I stepped outside to go back, and I'm like, oh no, this is an Uber time now. This is ridiculous.
Well, and yeah, you show up in like a jacket, like the sport jacket or something like that, and you're done. You're
Yeah.
done in Atlanta. Yeah, you're done.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That was crazy.
being accosted by like homeless and whatnot. One or two people got robbed. It was not ideal.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a big fan of holding conferences in Vegas. And at least to get from one place to another, you're inside the whole time, right? I mean, like, so you get some air going. You're not in the heat typically.
Which one it was? I want to say it was a Synergy a couple of years ago at Vegas that okay, so I will give a perspective too of the vast majority of these conferences that I've been to have been on my own dime as far as to getting there, but have been, the event itself was paid for by either a company or a vendor or whatever, which has been really fortunate. But sometimes that puts you in an interesting hotel situation, like you're having to be a little far away. And Vegas was not ideal for that when they were at the MGM. Not ideal at all. There's no easy way to get to, I can't remember what property it was. It was like a vacation club, Marriott Vacation Club, like up the block. At least it looked on the map. But it turns out there was no easy way to walk. You had to walk clear away to the main drag and back down in to get to that. That was kind of so Corey, that was the first time that I really had a lot of walking in terms of that. I actually wore through some shoes that year. The mile count was so heavy that the year after that, I actually started bringing extra shoes in my bag to do all the walking in and standing in. Actually, this is not an endorsement, but I'm actually using one of these today. It's like these Skechers Airwalks that I bought actually for Synergy 3 years ago.
I measured it. The last VMworld that I was at. So not this past year, the year before, I guess. When it was still in Vegas. Or no, it was, whatever. But it was in Vegas. We were staying at the Luxor, and where was the it wasn't Mandalay Bay. Was it Mandalay Bay? wherever it was, to get from the elevator I got off at to get down to the main floor to walk to the conference. I think it was 1.75 miles. It might have been 1.25, but I seem to remember 7.5. So it was almost a 2-mile walk to get there.
All inside, all
inside, which wasn't bad. I mean, all things considered, it could have been a lot worse. But for me, which is the fourth thing in Vegas, right? I mean, they want you inside.
Right. Exactly.
That's every shop and restaurant in existence. But
yeah, I mean, you have like the Bellagio that has like fake sky and things like that, which is kind of crazy, but yeah, whatever. Happens, right? But I mean, honestly, the walking, that's something of conferences as far as what I won't miss about virtual or being in a virtual conference instead of a in person. I won't miss the walking. But that's just me, I guess. Actually, sometimes it's good. I mean, it's good to like be able to stretch your legs and have a walk with people. But in Vegas, especially,
the weather's cooperative and things like that. But when it doesn't, and then you're waiting in line for like 3 hours for an Uber to show up because everybody's leaving at the same time and all that good stuff. Good time.
All right. So we've got a few more minutes. If anyone wants to share any other thoughts or memories of conferences, we will certainly air that. I think I missed something in the. So I don't know if I want to derail the conversation back into that yet. One thing I will say that we do have a survey that we need more people to fill out, and here's a quick link to it. This is on virtual summits in general, and as far as the career summit we were talking about, we need some additional feedback. We need to have some people letting us know that they're interested. This is something where we're going to start approaching this from a financial standpoint of if it's possible to actually do this. I think it will be. I think it's going to happen as a matter of timing and things like that. But there's some questions here that will help us better formulate your interest in the survey. So if you would please fill that out. That is going to be a permanent link. So if you go to that and it's a different survey, I'm not going to apologize. I think that's a good thing. So. But yeah, we're going to have some additional surveys coming up here soon as well. That'll help us better understand how to serve you, the things that you really want out of this and out of our community. I think it's going to be great. So please do that. Wow, I need to turn on my air conditioning here because it's crazy out in here. So you can let me know if you're going to hear this. But I'm going to turn it on anyway. Yeah. Hopefully you're not hearing that.
Just a little.
Hear me now? Okay. All right. Well, let's do this. We'll turn on that. A little switch on my computer makes it all hopefully go away.
Do not hear it now. That's very nice.
We're evaluating a new sponsor, and so if this works out really well, if I'm happy with it, then we'll announce the name of said sponsor next week. So evaluating that, so that's a lot of fun. But it got up to 80 degrees in here all of a sudden, and I'm like, no, now we ain't doing that. It's like walking around in Atlanta in here. I'll just walk in circles and just bathe in the glory. Actually, Orlando was like that too. Now that I think about it, so it's like there was a lot of walking, but for some reason I didn't mind as much with Orlando.
I don't think it was as much walking. I don't know. It did feel different. It did feel different. But I think part of it is the hotels may have been a bit closer.
Yeah.
But also it's out in the open as opposed to being like directly in the city.
Yeah.
So you're walking past more natural surroundings, I guess.
Yeah. It's kind of nice. So here's a question. Favorite conference city? So we'll pine for times when we're actually going to be, in conferences that are not, coming from our own homes.
I got to go with Dublin.
Dublin?
Club Forum in Dublin twice. That was great. But no, Dublin is a great town. I love Dublin. I love Ireland. And that was really fun for many reasons. It was fun.
I'm trying to think of like from a conference perspective, honestly, I think one of the ones that I have a lot of great memories of was actually Forum in Denver, because I was actually, I'm from Colorado originally, and that's where I was living at the time. And I was working in Denver all the time. So it was like not unusual for me at all, but getting to kind of share my city with people for the first time. But it was nice because everything was right there. Now, granted, much smaller event, but it was still cool to have everything just kind of right there and have a same kind of barroom conversations and that sort of thing. Just very convenient. So that actually is a good memory for me. Claudio says Tokyo, and I'm very jealous.
Oh.
Yeah, I really wanted to do that.
I'm going to be honest with you. I would not survive in Japan. I am the worst eater ever, and I would literally not survive. I'm just being perfectly honest.
Yeah, and I do default to sushi, but yeah. So
it would have to be like chicken of some kind or pork, but I mean, I wouldn't survive. I try, man, and I want to go because I love so much about Japan in general, and I would love to go and see it. But again, something about food and needing it for living type thing.
Yeah, I will also say, now that I'm thinking about it, there are certain venues that I think worked really well in certain regards and certain not. Like when Next was at the oh gosh, well, I'm in DC. Oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? It was the Gaylord.
Corey. Yeah. Sorry, Corey. I was there when that happened, representing Unidesk, and oh my gosh, that was insane because nobody knew about that was happening, and it happened in the middle. It was announced in the middle of the conference. Like, can't do that. Partners, nobody knew until it was announced publicly.
So nobody knows what you're talking about if they're listening. So
sorry. Oh yeah, sorry.
New Orleans Accents conference, when they became part of Landesk during the conference. And he says he hasn't been outside of North America, but would love to one day. And I would agree. I actually, aside from, so North America, yeah. So I was going to say Canada, Mexico, that sort of thing. It's like, that's not really outside of, but yeah. So, oh, wow.
You are such a typical American.
But I was just thinking about the whole announcements like that. Yeah. I was also actually, to be honest with you, thinking of a different memory. This is Orlando a couple of years ago. And I can't remember what year it was, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously it was a few years ago, but a friend of mine worked formerly for AppSense and went over to Res, and I can't remember why I thought this was a good idea. I think I just like people. I want people to like me, I guess, but also just kind of like kind of what Claudia was saying, just sometimes you just feel like rocking the boat a little bit. And so do you remember those orange shirts? Those just really obnoxious but super comfortable in warm weather, orange Res shirts that I think I said that it was the new cool or something like that. But
they're taking over the world.
So yeah, so I wore that to an AppSense dinner, and it went over well. I've never seen like so many AppSense people just like huddle around me, like trying to hide me. It was, and I'm a big guy.
I bright orange.
Yes. But it was great to have conversations with them and engage with them on that. But you could tell they were very much like, please leave, please leave. I can't tell you to leave, but please leave. It's like,
So what's the worst city that you've had a conference in? I know mine, right? Just absolute worst place to have a conference. I just want to.
I'm sorry, Citrix, but Atlanta was awful. It was
Atlanta was awful,
bad.
but in my opinion, obviously, it holds no candle to having a conference in Chicago, and the conference is at the McCormick Center.
As what?
The McCormick Center. Like VMworld was there. I did a what's the big medical conference?
HIMSS.
HIMSS, thank you.
Yeah.
Did that there. There's no hotels around the McCormick Center.
That's kind of what I was going to say. It's like, I remember the last HIMSS was like that. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And it was ridiculous. It would take an hour to 2 to get out of there, to get back to a hotel and stuff. And it's just
it was. And the funny thing is, I wasn't even there for HIMSS. I was there for something else completely. I can't even remember what it was. ConnectWise? No, it's something else.
Was there for a year.
Yeah, but it was at the same time as HIMSS.
Yeah.
And while it made for some really entertaining, barroom conversations and that sort of thing, because no one likes to drink like nurses, let me tell you. But doctors too. But but honestly, it was wow. Yeah, Chicago is bad. The funny thing is, like, San Francisco used to be really good for it, but I was actually there. I don't know if you were there the year they had protests against like the World Bank or something. I can't remember exactly what that was. It was like the 1% thing.
Yeah.
We are the 99, that sort of thing. That was an unfortunate thing, but the way the city had to handle that and have a conference going on at the same time, that was rough. That was really rough. Was that? Now I'm trying to remember if that was VMworld or something else. I
think Synergy had a few there as well. Citrix had a few there as well.
Yeah. Whenever there's something like that where there's two conferences going on at the same time, I mean, I don't think we should necessarily talk too much about when IGL had a little spat with VMware.
I've got my opinion.
Yeah, it was kind of wild, but I wasn't there, so I can't really give a lot of opinions. But at the same time, it's funny how things can get out of hand really bad in a certain city. Now, the funny thing about that is, in Atlanta, there were actually multiple conferences going on at the same time, and it was fine as far as the capacity goes and getting around. It didn't affect anything. It's just sucked out to walk everywhere. Orlando, same kind of thing. I was there during their big Comic-Con.
That was great.
Which
I loved watching those
happened in
cosplay.
Happened in Atlanta too. So one of those things where it's kind of ironic that my wife is into cosplay and stuff like that, and I keep trying to get her to come to these conferences with me. She won't do it, and I'm like, well, this happened again. So yeah, and then we're gonna have oh my gosh, I was just thinking about Orlando a couple of years ago. So Patrick Coble and I were there, and he stayed like way extra time with his family, which is another kind of thing that people don't think about with conferences that are physical, is putting a vacation along with that is something possible. Now granted, if you do that, you want to actually spend some time after the conference or before that with your family and not just send them to Disney World for the week and you not be there. That's bad. Don't do that. Jeff, have you done that?
I have not left my family.
Okay.
I like the
it's another great opportunity to do that. Just thinking of last year, we a bunch of us got together right before Synergy in Atlanta and went to a speedway and drove
The gas station?
really fast.
Why'd you go to a gas station?
Wow.
Do you not have speedways down there?
Who's the American now?
It's a joke.
For those of you who don't know, Speedway is a convenience store. Yeah. Gas vendor type place. Yeah. Cool. Well, I tell you what, yeah, we'd love to hear your ongoing comments. We'll check on those during the replay. But for the time being, I just looked at the clock. I'm like, we're well past what we usually do, but I think it's not a bad thing. So, any closing thoughts? Any good memories?
I do have a couple of closing thoughts. One, if you go to a big vendor conference, don't expect to get real deep, true technical information. That type of thing. But beyond that, first off, one, Claudio, thank you for showing up. I have said this repeatedly. I can't wait for you and I to get on one of these and have one of our classic discussions. So great. I love it. And two, DJ, I am going to crush you with Zerg, Proton, Human, whatever. You, my friend, are going down. StarCraft, baby.
Yeah. And it's gonna have to be revived. What was that?
Sorry, I had to throw that in because that's just too great.
A map called Big Game Hunters that we used to play on, and that really tested the metal. And it's a lot of fun. So yeah, we'll do that. So yeah. So in closing too, anytime there's a conference, hopefully a lot of virtual conferences can figure this out. We're certainly trying to, but connection is the most important thing. And it can be absolutely life-changing. So if you have the opportunity to go to one, you should go. Now, for those of us that are independent, not working for a company that's going to send us to one, we are actually working on some ways to build up some kind of scholarship funds and things like that to help more people in that sort of situation go, because conferences do tend to be pretty expensive. But right now, you have the opportunity to attend a lot of virtual events for free. Almost every single vendor conference right now is doing their event for free. That's a great opportunity to at least get some of that, content and connection out of the way. But yeah, you should actually do that. Johnny Moss says, "Been looking for a while working." We appreciate that. We're glad to be a distraction. But interesting stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Johnny and I go way back, and I think there's even some conferences ourselves that have been attending. But yeah. But anyway, that's a big thing when it comes to that conference kind of mentality. A lot of people will try and just cram in a bunch of technical content, like fill up their agenda. And I actually advised this on a video before Synergy last year of giving yourself space to not just learn, but to connect. In fact, I made it a policy at Synergy, I think it was 2 years ago, that I would just say, okay, I will do this session, but the next one after it, I do not schedule anything. I don't want to be rushing off to the next session. And so I'll just kind of pick and choose what's most important for me to attend. And then the other one is just spent time connecting with people. And it's amazing the kind of things you can learn and connect with people. I've gotten jobs from that. I've gotten like literally, I've gotten just valuable connections that I've done over the years. In and out of like the programs. Just being at those conferences actually is really valuable, and so it is a great way to get in. But honestly, it's just like if you think of the hundreds of thousands of people that work in EUC, if you go to a conference, it's not that you're elite necessarily, but you are set apart. You're putting yourself in a situation where you have access to other people that are trying to be set apart as well. That's a mutual interest, and it usually works out for the better. So if you can attend a conference, I definitely recommend that, and I hope and pray that we'll be doing in person again very soon, because that's the way it should be. Yeah. Cool.
So, last thing is, if you do get a chance, sign up for the E2 EVC for this weekend. And I just forgot what I was going to say.
Well, a few people that'll be speaking. Yeah.
If you want the link to the Friday event that Steve Greenberg puts on, which is basically just a bunch of us we got talking about chickens a couple weeks ago, and chicken coops and keeping chickens and RVs. And I mean, it's not technical. It's just a heck of a lot of fun. It really is. So it's awesome.
Yeah. So that is
we can't give it out publicly.
Right. Yeah, we can't do that, obviously, but we'd love to have you come join the conversation with us. That's just a very kickback. We don't talk tech. We don't talk politics. We don't talk that stuff. We just, we might talk about alcohol a lot, but
learn how to make a old fashioned.
Yeah, exactly. So it's good stuff. So that's every Friday evening at this point. So we'll just do that as long as we can. So yeah, Corey says he makes a huge effort to reconnect with vendors that have helped along the way, and I agree. That is something where I'm actually working on a list myself of people to reconnect with, as far as people that have been helpful. Not only, I mean, there's been vendors and whatnot that have actually sent me to conferences, not to represent them, but just to be there. So there's a lot of things like that I always do appreciate that. So it's a good to recognize that and give back, and hopefully got some opportunities. So yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, make sure you hit like and subscribe. And honestly, for us, it's really important that you click that little bell so you actually get a notification when we're going live, because we do switch up this time from time to time as far as we're trying to figure out what works best. I was glad to see so many people on today. That was great. If you want to just share this YouTube channel with folks, you can just do thrive-it.com/YT. And that will take you directly to the channel. There's also another link you can if you want to just subscribe directly. That is thrive-it.com slash. It just went away. Oh noes! Here, I'll put this in the chat, but it's subme is I believe what it should be here. So thrive-it.com/subme, and you'll get subscribed to our YouTube channel. So very
remember, click the bell, and think of it as a cowbell, because we all know needs more cowbell.
More cowbell. And in closing today, I will just say, my life friar. Cheers, everybody. See you next time.
Cheers.